Jerome, strategy versus spontaneity. What do you think?
I think they're both very important. I think every organization has to have a strategy. So if you look at athletic teams, they prepare for in practice. They practice what they think is going to be the game plan. And then what happens during that game is something changes. So they have to make an adjustment. But they prepare for that too. And so the teams that can quickly adjust are usually the teams that win the most if they have the talent. So they basically go into the game knowing that if they take away this particular play, what are alternatives? What do we do? How do we adjust? And it's hard to adjust or to be spontaneous if you haven't really prepared. And so I really encourage my people to practice difficult situations. Dawn Staley, who's the coach of University of South Carolina women's basketball team that won the national championship this past year, when she starts the season, she puts her team in the most difficult positions. They don't practice the best positions, they practice the worst positions. And in basketball, the worst position you can be in as a player is in one of the four corners, because not only do you have the defense, you have invisible defense is the out of bounds. So she starts her players in that position, and they have to learn how to get out of that position and get the ball up the court successfully. You cannot be spontaneous if you're not prepared to be spontaneous. So spontaneity isn't some fly-by-night thing. It's part of the strategy. Strategically, Dawn Staley prepares her team to be spontaneous when they need to be. And I think that's just a beautiful example of spontaneity. The belief is spontaneity is, oh, I'm spontaneous. Spontaneity requires a lot. It requires listening. It requires taking direction. It requires us to embrace change. So it's part of the strategy. Any really strong organization should have a strategy that includes spontaneity.
Interesting. In organizations, spontaneity can be seen as something a little scary. What if you commit a faux pas? What if you say something that is not acceptable? Do you feel like it also depends on the culture of the business leaders are in?
Yeah, that's a really good point. In 2024, you're trying to be perfect, you've already failed. That's bigger than making a mistake, because we live in a VUCA world, really huge change, uncertainty, ambiguity. So we have this volatility that exists. And so our ability to be rational when we need to be rational, and then to also deal with emotions when we need to deal with that. So some of the side effects of VUCA is the ambiguity and uncertainty. And I think that's where organizations get stuck, is because right now, I think a lot of things are ambiguous and there's a lot of uncertainty. And so your ability to deal with that with your people is important. You have to deal with that emotional aspect that they're having. And I think that will be really helpful in helping them. That should be part of your strategy and allows you to be more spontaneous.
Is there a way for yourself or myself in an organization to kind of stipulate to the teammates, to everybody around me, hey, I'm a little bit of a goofball sometimes. I may make some mistakes. I'm just gonna smile and brush it off. Don't mind me. I know what I'm doing, but I'm still kind of mistake sometimes. But I prefer to be spontaneous. Is that something that you propone in terms of establishing, war in front of all the others?
I guess our question is, when you say I prefer to be spontaneous, are you saying that they operate from that vantage point all the time, or?
No, I mean during a board meeting or a meeting, for example. I don't know. I guess my question is, I would personally feel more inclined to follow a leader who is admittedly acknowledging that he or she is going to make some mistakes.
So every person has something, they have a strength. So if spontaneity is a strength that you have, great, use it. But also understand that developing other areas of your abilities is also important. So
Right.
just saying that I'm just spontaneous and you just have to accept that, I don't know how many people are going to do that. So the spontaneity is not something that you go in saying, I'm planning spontaneity. It comes from listening, reflecting, built over time. It's not something that just comes out of thin air. So it's the ability to really listen and hear. That's when the spontaneity really kicks in. It's when you've been listening, when you've been taking in information. But I believe if somebody just walks in the room, I'm spontaneous and just this is how I am, I'm not sure that I'm going to want to follow that person.
Correct. Okay. Good stuff.